What's up, ninjas? Brendan here. Welcome to the next day in the series where I will show you how to build on Injective fast. Today's topic, the Injective CLI and the Injective TypeScript SDK. All right, so you should already have a copy of the 7 days or N days of Injective repo checked out locally on your computer by now. And today we'll be looking at day 5. Right, inside of it, you'll have, if you have already have it cloned, you'll already have this, and open it up over here, and you have like the README file within the SDK section and the README file within the Injective section. So just make sure you have those before we proceed. All right, so here is what we'll be doing today in a bit more detail. We won't get into that so much right now. And the first step is to install Injective. So we should already have the repo, open up the readmes as I showed earlier on, and just check which platforms support which version of Injective. There's 3 ways to install it. In today's demonstration, we're just going to be using Docker since that's the one that is guaranteed to work on all systems. And then after we have installed it, then we'll actually create an alias for the Docker command. So let's go ahead and do all of that, right? So the instructions are here. I'll open it up in Injective, right? So you can see here, that's the compatibility table, right? The Docker is the one that works on all the different platforms. And you also have the options of pre-built binaries or building from source, but this is the one we're going to do. So just make sure that you have Docker running. So I'm going to be running obstack, so that provides me with Docker. And then I'm going to just copy this command and run it. So there we go. If it's the first time, you'll see some, you'll have to wait for the image to download, but since I already have it, it is instant. And yeah, it runs. So the next thing we're going to do is to create an alias, right? So this is so that I don't have to type this every single time, right? So, and it also has as well, I'll just make this a bit bigger, right? You can see it sets up the home directory and other such things. So this alias is pretty useful, right? Now, this alias will only be within this shell. You can't use it like in another shell. So for example, if I do this Injective version over here, it'll work. But if I do Injective version over here, right, it says command not found, right? If you want that to persist across different shell sessions, then you'll need to configure that in bash rc, that is hrc.profile, etc., right? Okay, so we've already done this, we've checked the version. So as long as you can do Injective version and you can see some output with the correct version number, you're good to go. All right, so that's the installation. Now the next thing we're going to be doing is running a few different Injective commands. And the first thing we'll do is we'll create our own key or key pair. And that is essentially going to be our wallet, and we'll use that later. And then we will check the command after, we'll run the next command to fetch the balance, and then the command after that is to send INJ. In between, we're going to have to use the faucet to make sure that we have funds to even send, right? All right, so let's see. Let's copy this command, Injective keys add my key. Cool. So once you've done that, right, you've got a my key and it's stored inside your Docker image, right? And you want to save this BIP39 thing. Think of this as your seed phrase. Well, it is your seed phrase. Think of it as being similar to your password, right? I should never show this if I'm intending to use this on mainnet, but since it's a testnet, that's fine. So I'm just gonna create a new thing and yeah, just keep it there for the moment. We'll come back to that later. So now if we do Injective keys list, we can see here that we've got one key over here, and this is the address for it. It won't show you the password just yet, the seed phrase here. All right, so let's query the balance, right? So let's copy this command, and over here, I am going to replace it with my Injective address, and I'm just going to save that. And you can see here that I have no balances in anything. Now, let's go ahead and where have I got it? I've got that URL over here, right? So I'm going to go to the testnet faucet, and I am going to paste the address over here, and I am going to complete the captcha. Right, that's an interesting one. And oh, that one doesn't move. All right. Okay, that worked. So I'll press request tokens, and hopefully the transaction goes through. Half the time it just shows couldn't find transaction, but it will go through eventually. So once this is complete, I should be able to query the balance and get the updated one. This takes a bit longer because the faucet is grouping together batches of transactions and only running a transaction every few seconds or every minute, I think, rather than every single time you press the request tokens button. All right, so let's do that. All right, so we still have no balance. We'll come and repeat that command a bit later, right? Now the next thing we're going to do is this is the thing. So we don't have any balances at the moment. Now the next thing we're going to do is to send a transaction, right? So we're going to copy this. I'm going to copy this command, and I'm going to replace from address with my underscore key, which I can do with this account over here, or I can just use this account. And the to address, right? I am going to go to, I had a link over here, right? So testnet. Right, and I'm just going to grab a random address. Let's go for this one. Ooh, interesting. Why don't the addresses start with INJ? Let's go with this one. There you go. Right. So I'm going to transfer the to address, this randomly selected address. So congratulations, stranger. And then I'm going to transfer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Note that if you use capital letters, that stands for full INJ token. Otherwise, if you use lowercase INJ, then that stands for the smallest possible unit of INJ, right? And then the rest of the commands are fine. So we'll just do that. And then I need to enter my password. All right, and then confirm transaction. So I'm just going to take a look at it. All right, from address, it has extracted it from my key. To address is the same, and the amount is that. So it's converted this amount, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, into that. All right, so yes. Sorry, that's the amount. All right, so I've got a transaction hash. Let's go and copy that and search for that over here. And there we go. So I've got from address to address, and the amount is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. Okay, so I have done 3 things, right? Just to recap, I've created a new wallet, and I have fetched its balance, and I've also sent some balance. Actually, let's go and query the balance of the account again. Right. So this one returned nothing, right? So this should now have 1 full INJ minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. Yep, and it also has, I think, some testnet USDT as well. Cool. Let's move on to the next one, which is to install the TypeScript SDK, right? So we will go to the SDK folder and just follow the instructions in the README, and this will install the TypeScript SDK from Injective Labs, and it'll have type definitions, works in Node.js, etc., right? And it provides a bunch of useful features that work with the Injective network. And that's precisely what I'm going to do. Now, let's see. Let's open up the other README, which is this one. And over here, I will correct that typo. That was Injective. I'm going to open this README over here, right? So, the SDK, and then I'm going to run npm install, which is this command over here. Let's actually see what the package.json says. Right, okay, so it's already specified this, so that's okay. And then we will be running these two commands later on. While it is doing that, I am going to set up the environment variables properly. So I'll open a shell here, paste that over here. All right, got there in the end. All right, so now I've got sender and receiver. So let's reuse the same example. Sender and receiver will be the to address. Now what we don't have is the private key, but thankfully we saved that over here, right? So seed phrase, I'm just going to type that as seed phrase so that I can see what it is in the tab. Right, and then I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to get a key from that. So BIP39, there we go, I have it in my history. So you want to go to iancoleman.io/BIP39, and then instead of generate, you're just going to paste that over there. And then over here, you can select Ethereum, like any EVM compatible one will do, so long as the derivation path is the same as Ethereum. Doesn't really matter. Then over here, you can copy the private key, right? So basically, that's what the seed phrase is. It is a way to generate the private key, as well as, I should say, multiple private keys using variations on the derivation path. But all we need to know is that seed phrase can be converted into the private key, which is what allows you or authorizes you to act on behalf of your wallet, right? All right, so we've set up the .env file and the installation has finished, right? Now, the next thing that we're going to do is to run the send injective script, right? Actually, no, before we do that, let's do the query balance script. Run the query balance script. There we go. So we've got this much injective, right? Basically, it's one full INJ, and you subtract whatever we've transacted so far. Next thing we're going to do is to update the env file, which we've done already, and then we can do this. And there we go. So here's the transaction data, and we don't really care about most of it except for the transaction hash. So let's go back to the block explorer and paste that transaction hash. And we see we've transferred 1000, right? Which matches what we have inside of the script. Now let's go ahead and modify the script, which is, let's see, src and transact. Okay, so the amount is set in the .n file. So let's set that to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Not really 10, but that works. All right, now let's rerun the transaction. All right, that's our transaction hash, and copy, paste. There you go. We've sent the transaction. So we sent 2 transactions now. All right, so we've installed the TypeScript SDK, then we've done a fetch balance query, and we've also done a transfer INJ transaction as well. And congratulations. Now remember to not only just watch this video, but also be sure to follow along and do the steps yourself, the ones that I've just demonstrated. Everything is inside the README file, so you just got to follow along. It should only take you a few minutes to complete this, the task for today.
But before you go, note that this is a preview edition of the video that is part of the 7 days of Injective course. We are creating the full version of this course with all of the bells and whistles. And if you watch this far, I'm sure that you will be keen on that too. So do sign up using the form by scanning the QR code or clicking on a link in the description of this video. For now, on to the next video.